Wow, yeah, swear to God, I'm with it.
Hey, it's Meorah, and in this video, I am sharing a progress update on my spiritual burnout recovery. From the last video I did on that, I showed you guys a chart that I came up with to basically help me get back on track when it came to my Jewish observances, practices, and especially when it comes to prayer. So as a reminder, the chart that I had made basically outlined all the things I would encompass in my ideal day, and I basically had to shade off the box if I completed it, and if I didn't, I would get an X or a blank spot. And it really did help me get back on track and make sure that I'm accountable by just having a very simple checklist system. So real quickly, the categories were meditation, shacharit, exercise, posting on social media, hitting inbox 0, work, mincha, study, mariv, Hebrew, hitbodedut, and kriyat shema. So now that we're in February, I wanted to show you guys the results of January and also give you a glimpse of my 2.0 chart, a new version that I created for the month of February. All right, so this is what the chart ended up looking like. So anytime I shaded in the box, it means that I did it, and if it was blank, I ended up actually highlighting it in yellow so you could see it better. That means I didn't do it. So this is just a little glimpse. So as you can see, I do have some yellow boxes, but overall, I think I did pretty well. I did score myself. I just kind of gave myself averages and stuff. So across all the categories, I had 80%. So that's not too bad, but there are definitely some categories like Hebrew where I definitely had a lot of blank spots. Now in meditation, I got a 68%, shacharit, and basically all the prayer categories from shacharit, mincha, mariv, and kriyat shema, I did 100%. So I'm back on track with my prayer game, which I'm so relieved about. That was really the primary purpose of coming up with this chart system and sticking with it. But again, I found it to be just really helpful overall, which is why I came up with a new one. Now exercise, I got a 76%, same with posting on social media. Hitting inbox 0, I got a 67%, which is pretty low. And work, believe it or not, I got 57% because there are several days where I just had total gaps. Studying, I got a 92%. I missed just a couple days there. And Hebrew, I got a 44% because I skipped a whole bunch of days, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And hitbodedut, I got an 84%. I skipped 4 different days. So that's how I did. Like I said, overall, I got an 80%, which isn't bad. It's not great, but it's definitely some room for improvement. So now that I've gone through a month of that experience, I came up with a new chart, and what I did was change a few categories, and I also put them in order based on what I was actually doing, like in the order of the day. And I also paid attention to what happened last month in terms of where I was actually falling short. And what I found was that generally speaking, I was having a hard time getting through some of the work categories on Friday, especially since I'm just kind of getting ready for Shabbat. Even if I'm not doing a lot of like cleaning or housework, it's still just mentally like I feel like I'm just already checked out a little bit. So what I decided to do is actually give myself a break on Fridays and Saturdays. So what I've done here is actually pre-filled certain boxes like work and inbox 0 so that on Fridays and Saturdays I don't have to do them. What I like about this too is that it's gradually shifting me into that mindset a little bit more like in Israel where Friday and Saturday, like that's the weekend, and then Sunday is your weekday. So I think that's a good shift for me. All right, so here it goes. Here's my new chart. There's where we're at so far, and I'll go through the different categories with you, just a little visual there. So first is shacharit, of course, morning prayers. I have ivrit, and that is such an important one, and I moved it right after shacharit because I had in my original chart like way later in the day, and honestly that was totally killing me because there were so many days where I was just like putting it off till the end and wouldn't end up doing it. So my new rule of thumb is to really try to do my Hebrew study right after shacharit. Admittedly, today I actually have a blank spot because I haven't done it yet. I did end up getting a bit sucked into work today, so I haven't done it yet, but I will do it. And then next is posting on social media, hitting inbox 0, work. So those are all kind of the same categories as I had last chart. Then I have mincha prayers, and then after that I put in my studies. And whereas in the last version of my chart I just wrote study, this time I've actually split it into 2 different categories, so I'm making more progress when it comes to specific types of study. Frankly, I'm not really studying Tanakh very regularly, and I wanted to do a full read through. So I'm starting with the prophets, since I do read the rest of the Chumash pretty regularly. So I'm starting back with prophets, and giving myself 3 chapters a day, which isn't that much, but it is substantial enough that I'll make some, forward progress there. The second category that I added is Mishnah. So I did try to get into Daf Yomi right when the cycle started, I think about a year ago or so. It did kind of fall by the wayside, even though I found a lot of great resources like podcasts and summaries, which I still read the summaries, which I get in my inbox every day. But, aside from all the study tools, I honestly just found it to be like a bit overwhelming, and there's just like a lot of back and forth going on, and I just didn't really feel totally ready to take on Daf Yomi yet. So hopefully next cycle, or Bezrat Hashem even before that, I'll be able to get into Daf Yomi. But what I figured would be good is for me to just get a little bit more basic and study Mishnayot. So I have Mishnah as a separate category, and I have to say I've been doing it now, I think we're 3 days in. And I love it so much, and it's actually like really fun, and I'm taking great notes, and just really gotten into it. So I'm glad that I added that to my 2.0 version of the chart, and maybe someday I'll add Daf Yomi to this list as well. Now after that, I have Mariv, I have exercise, I have meditation, which got moved from the beginning of the day to the end of the day because the meditation practice I'm doing actually does kind of like mellow me out a little bit. So I feel like it's a great thing to sort of lead into the evening. And then after that, I have Hitbodedut and then Kriyat Shema, same as before in my other chart. And then I have a category that just applies to the entire day, and I've called it Eating as Tikkun. And I called it that specifically. It's also the title of a book that I really like by, I think her name is Susan Yehudit Schneider. I highly recommend that book. But I wrote that as opposed to like diet or nutrition, because it's really more about being more mindful about what I'm eating and what I'm not eating. So I added that as kind of a broad category. So basically what I'm doing in terms of eating as Tikkun is that on Mondays and Thursdays, I am doing a full day fast. So I'm not eating until nightfall. And I really like that practice. I kind of picked it up from Rabbi Alon Anava, who mentioned that he was doing that. I think as he started to get observant, he's a Bal Tshuva, definitely recommend him as well. But anyway, I thought that was a great way to just sort of add into sort of my own personal Tikkun. So that's there. And then on Tuesdays, I'm doing a morning fast. I'm just doing like a half day fast until noon. So it's a little bit easier. And then on Wednesdays, I have just a no starch rule just to kind of keep my diet in check. And then on Fridays and Sundays, it's not much of a restriction, but I wrote no caffeine just to kind of keep that in check as well. And then of course on Shabbat, there's no restrictions, so we can just eat and be merry. So that's my list of eating as Tikkun, like kind of cycling through the different days. Now I was really excited to see that in the comments of my last video with my original chart, at least a couple of you did mention that you were going to make charts of your own. I hope you did that. Let me know in the comments if you ended up doing it. But just in case, for those of you who are interested in doing a chart like this for your own observances and kind of prayer practices and routines, something else I did on the back of this chart is actually made a list of February goals, and then I just kind of listed them down and then wrote completed, so I can sort of check it off. A couple things I wrote on here as a February goal is to score 100% on Hebrew, as opposed to this very like sad excuse of 44% in my old chart. And also another February goal was to beat last month's average score of 80%. So I'm scoring myself. I think it's helpful. It just, kind of keeps me in check. So I figured those would be great like February goals to add. I also just wrote myself just little notes to remind me to hold on to these thoughts throughout the month. One of them was to keep working on Netzchak, to make progress in everything you do one step at a time. So if you guys have ever like studied the Sfirot, different manifestations of Hashem, different character traits that we also embody, it's actually a really helpful thing to study, to just see where you check out and see where you may be lacking. For me, Netzchak is a struggle. Technically it means eternity, but it's also indicating endurance and perseverance. So for me, it's like just willpower, discipline, sticking with like one thing at a time. So for me, that was like a helpful reminder, and certainly applies to this whole chart system that I'm getting into. Another thing that I wrote on here is to remember to have fun at every moment and serve Hashem with joy. So that's a helpful reminder for me, because I do tend to get a little bit serious. Like I've historically called myself a serious person, and I do forget to kind of just have fun and enjoy like the journey. So I know it's super corny, but I did write that, and I put a little smiley face emoji to just kind of remind me to just be joyous as I serve Hashem every single day. So that, folks, is the 2.0 version of my productivity chart for Jewish observances and practices and just my daily routine. If you're struggling to get into your own routine, I do definitely recommend trying it out, or even just make yourself a simple checklist that you stick with every single day. Living an observant Jewish lifestyle is definitely taxing, it's demanding, it's just wrought with challenges. So the least you can do is make it kind of dummy proof. For me, having this like checklist system has definitely been a big help. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Wish me luck on this month as I progress forward on my journey, and I wish you luck in yours. Shalom Aleichem.
I don't want to cause no problems. I just want to live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but you know when you see imposters. We know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you want to talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure your walk and your talk is constant.